What they did not know was that betrayal would become my greatest fuel, and revenge would taste sweeter than they ever imagined. My name is Valerie, and I want you to understand something about falling from grace. It does not happen all at once. It happens slowly, like watching your reflection fade in a mirror that someone else is holding. And when they finally drop that mirror and walk away, you realize the only person who can pick up the pieces is you. I was 22 when the world first noticed me. Paris Fashion Week, Milan runways, editorial shoots that made my mother cry with pride when she saw my face in magazines. I was not just a model. I was a dream walking on designer heels, capturing light in ways that made photographers fall in love with their own cameras. But dreams have expiration dates, especially in an industry that worships youth like a religion. The end came swift and brutal. Milan Fashion Week, Spring Collection, Versace runway. One wrong step, one twisted ankle, and the sound of my ACL tearing echoed through that cathedral of fashion like a death knell. I remember lying there on the runway, designer gowns spread around me like broken wings, while hundreds of eyes stared down at me with a mixture of pity and relief. Relief that it was not them. Relief that the competition had just gotten a little less fierce. These things happen, the doctors said, as if my entire career collapsing was just another Tuesday for them. You will walk again, but runway modeling, that might be challenging. Challenging. What a delicate way to say impossible. That was when Ethan swooped in, my knight in shining armor who turned out to be made of fool's gold. Ethan Morrison, finance executive, Harvard graduate, owner of a smile that could charm venture capitalists and a heart that could fit in a thimble. He had been circling me for months before my accident, and suddenly, with my career in ruins, I looked like a project he could handle. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise, he said, holding my hand in that sterile hospital room. You have been running yourself ragged, Valerie. Maybe it is time to settle down, think about what really matters. Family, stability, a real life. A real life. As if everything I had built, everything I had achieved, was just dress up and make believe. Modeling is a young woman's game anyway, he continued, and I should have heard the condescension dripping from his voice like poison. You are almost 30. Most models your age are already thinking about their exit strategy. I was 27. But I was broken, physically and emotionally, and Ethan represented something I had never had, security. So I said yes when he proposed. I said yes to the suburban house with the white picket fence. I said yes to dinner parties where his colleagues' wives discussed organic baby food and the best preschools while I sat silent, my modeling portfolio gathering dust in the closet like a relic from someone else's life. For 8 years, I played the role of Ethan's perfect girlfriend, then fiancée, then almost wife. I attended his company events, smiled for photos, and pretended that my greatest accomplishment was perfecting my green smoothie recipe. I started a wellness blog that nobody read. I took yoga teacher training. I became exactly what he wanted. Smaller, quieter, more manageable. And all the while, I was disappearing. The modeling industry forgot about me with the ruthless efficiency of a machine designed to consume youth. New faces replaced mine in campaigns I used to book. Photographers who once fought to work with me stopped returning my calls. I became a cautionary tale whispered in casting offices. Remember Valerie? She was everywhere for a while. Wonder what happened to her. What happened to me was Ethan. What happened to me was believing that my worth was tied to someone else's definition of success. What happened to me was forgetting that I had ever been a force of nature. But the thing about forces of nature is that they do not stay dormant forever. The awakening came on my 35th birthday. Not with cake and candles, but with a phone screen that lit up with a message not meant for my eyes. Ethan had left his phone unlocked. A mistake that would prove to be the best gift he ever gave me. The message thread was with his colleagues, and there she was, Miranda, his 26-year-old intern with the bright smile and the ruthless ambition. The same Miranda who had been helping him work late for months. The same Miranda who had been attending client dinners that I was suddenly too tired to join. But it was not just the affair that shattered me. It was the way they talked about me. She used to be hot, Miranda had written. Now she just makes smoothies and talks about glow, like it is 2012. How do you stand it? Ethan's response was worse than any betrayal I could have imagined. She serves her purpose. But you are right. She is not what she used to be. Sometimes I look at old photos and wonder where that fire went. That fire. The fire he had spent 8 years systematically extinguishing. I screenshot everything. Every message. Every cruel joke. Every moment they had laughed at my expense. Then I set his phone down exactly where I found it, walked to our bathroom, and looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in years. Really looked. I saw a woman who had been playing small for so long that she had forgotten she was ever meant to be large. I saw someone who had traded her wildness for security, her voice for approval, her dreams for someone else's comfort. I saw a 35-year-old woman who had been convinced she was past her prime when she had barely begun to bloom. That night, I did not confront Ethan. I did not scream or cry or throw his belongings out the window, though every cell in my body wanted to. Instead, I began to plan. The next morning, I told him I needed space. I am going to visit my sister in California for a few weeks, I said. I need to think about things. He barely looked up from his breakfast. Take all the time you need. Maybe the break will be good for you. I moved out that afternoon while he was at work. I took only what was mine, my clothes, my old modeling portfolio, and the small savings account I had kept separate from our joint finances. I left behind the engagement ring, the shared life, and the woman who had forgotten she was capable of burning down the world. I did not go to California. I rented a small apartment in Brooklyn, threw my phone in a drawer, and disappeared from social media completely. For 6 months, I became a ghost, and in that silence, I began to remember who I used to be. I started small. I began working out again, not to shrink myself but to reclaim my strength. I studied the industry I had left behind, learning how it had changed, how women my age were being represented, what stories were being told. I read books about business, about branding, about women who had built empires from ashes. And then I began to build. My first post back on Instagram was a photo of me at sunrise, no makeup, hair in a messy bun, looking directly into the camera with eyes that had remembered how to burn. The caption was simple. 35 and just getting started. I did not talk about Ethan. I did not mention the betrayal or the heartbreak or the years I had spent playing small. Instead, I began to tell a different story. I talked about what it meant to be a woman in her 30s who refused to apologize for taking up space. I shared beauty routines that celebrated maturity instead of hiding it. I posted workout videos that were about strength, not shrinking. I wrote about confidence like it was a skill that could be learned, a muscle that could be trained. Most importantly, I began to talk about the modeling industry from the perspective of someone who had been inside it and understood its cruelties, but who also saw its potential for change. I spoke to women who had been told they were too old, too experienced, too much. I created content for the forgotten demographic. Women who had lived long enough to know who they were, and were tired of being invisible. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments poured in from women who felt seen for the first time in years. My follower count began to climb steadily, but more importantly, brands began to notice. Not the fast fashion companies targeting teenagers. Not the beauty brands obsessed with the fountain of youth. But luxury brands, high-end companies that understood that women with experience had money, taste, and loyalty. Women who had learned to invest in quality rather than quantity. Women who understood that true elegance was not about pretending to be 25 forever. That was when Maison Clairette found me. Maison Clairette was French luxury at its finest. Founded in 1952 by Marguerite Clairette, a woman who had refused to let the fashion world dictate her worth, the brand had built its reputation on timeless elegance and uncompromising quality. But by 2023, they were facing a problem that many luxury brands struggled with: how to remain relevant without losing their soul. Their creative director, Isabelle Moreau, had been following my content for months. She reached out through my business email with a message that changed everything. Valerie, I have been watching your work, and I believe you represent something we have been missing in our industry. You embody the woman we design for but have been afraid to put front and center. Would you be interested in discussing a partnership? The meeting took place at their Manhattan showroom, a space that felt like stepping into a Parisian dream. Isabelle was exactly what I had imagined. Elegant, sharp, with the kind of confidence that comes from years of making difficult decisions in a male-dominated industry. "We are not looking for a model," she said, studying me with the intensity of someone who made her living reading people. "We are looking for a woman who understands that luxury is not about youth. It is about knowing who you are and refusing to apologize for it." She showed me their vision, a campaign that would celebrate women who had earned their place in the world, who wore their experience like jewelry, who understood that true beauty was not about perfection but about authenticity. They wanted to challenge the industry's obsession with youth by showing that elegance was ageless. "We want you to be our face," Isabel said. "Not despite your age but because of it. Because you understand something that a 22-year-old cannot. That confidence is the most beautiful thing a woman can wear." The contract was more than I had ever imagined. Not just money, though the figure was substantial enough to make me financially independent for the first time in my life. It was creative control, brand partnership, and the chance to be part of something revolutionary. The photo shoot took place in Monaco, and I want you to understand what it felt like to step back in front of a camera after 8 years of believing that part of my life was over. The photographer, Jean-Luc Moreau, was a master of light and shadow, and he worked with the patience of someone who understood that real beauty could not be rushed. "You are different from the models I usually work with," he said as we worked. "You know who you are. It shows in every shot." The dress was black silk that moved like water, cut to celebrate rather than hide the body I had learned to love again. The jewelry was vintage claret, pieces that had been worn by women who had built empires and broken rules. But the most important element was something no stylist could provide. The look in my eyes. It was the look of a woman who had been underestimated and had decided to prove everyone wrong. The campaign launched 3 months later, and the response was immediate and polarizing. Fashion critics called it groundbreaking and long overdue. Younger influencers accused the brand of pandering and trying too hard. But the sales numbers told the real story. Women were buying claret products at unprecedented rates. More importantly, the campaign sparked conversations about ageism in fashion, about the industries that discarded women the moment they showed signs of experience, about the beauty that came with living long enough to know yourself. "But I want to tell you about the billboard." The billboard was Isabel's idea. "We need to make a statement," she said. "Something that cannot be ignored." 40 feet high, positioned on one of the most expensive advertising spaces in Manhattan, right on Lexington Avenue. The image was striking, me in dramatic black and white, wearing a vintage claret necklace that caught the light like captured stars, looking directly at the camera with eyes that had learned to see their own worth. The tagline, written in elegant script beneath my image, was simple but devastating. Timeless. Bold. Her. What I did not tell Isabel was that I had specifically requested that location. Because directly across the street, in a glass tower that reflected my image back at itself, was Morrison Financial. Ethan's office was on the 15th floor, and his window had a perfect view of my face. The billboard went live on a Wednesday morning, and by noon, my phone was buzzing with messages from people who had seen it. But the message that mattered most came from an unexpected source. Ethan's assistant, a young woman named Sarah who had always been kind to me during the years I had attended office parties and company events. She posted a photo of the billboard on Instagram with a caption that went viral within hours. "Karma wears red lipstick and signs million-dollar contracts." The comments section became a celebration of women who had been underestimated, who had been told they were too old, too experienced, too much. My Instagram notifications exploded with messages from women sharing their own stories of being dismissed and finding their way back to their power. But it was the direct message from Ethan that made me laugh out loud. "Is that really you?" For words that contained so much disbelief, so much shock, so much recognition that the woman he had tried to diminish had grown into something he could never have imagined. I did not respond. I did not need to. Instead, I posted a photo of myself standing in front of the billboard, wearing jeans and a simple white t-shirt, looking up at my own image with a smile that had learned to hold secrets. The caption was a quote from Maya Angelou. "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. But I want you to understand that this story is not really about revenge, though the revenge was sweet. It is not about Ethan, though his betrayal was the catalyst that changed everything. This story is about the woman who decided to remember who she was before the world told her who she should be. The success of the Claret campaign opened doors I had never imagined. Luxury brands began reaching out, not looking for a model, but for a woman who understood their clientele. I became a brand ambassador, a creative consultant, a voice for women who had been ignored by an industry obsessed with youth. My social media following grew to over 2 million women who called me their role model, their inspiration, their reminder that life could begin at any age. I started speaking at conferences about ageism in fashion, about the power of reinvention, about the beauty of becoming who you were always meant to be. But more than the professional success, more than the financial independence, more than the recognition, was the personal transformation. I had learned to see myself through my own eyes rather than through the lens of someone else's expectations. I had remembered that my worth was not dependent on anyone else's validation. At 36, I am exactly where I am supposed to be. I live in a penthouse apartment in Manhattan with floor-to-ceiling windows that look out over the city that had once chewed me up and spit me out. I travel the world for work, but now I do it on my own terms. I have built something that belongs entirely to me. I am not married. I do not have children. I am not following the traditional path that Ethan had mapped out for me. Instead, I am living a life that would have been impossible if I had not learned to bet on myself. The billboard stayed up for 6 months, and during that time, I heard through mutual friends that Ethan had requested to work from the company's other location. He could not stand walking into his office every morning and seeing my face staring back at him, 40 feet tall and completely unbothered by his opinion. Miranda, his intern, had been transferred to a different department after their affair became office gossip. Apparently, dating the boss was less appealing when everyone knew about it. Ethan had gained weight, lost some of his swagger, and developed a reputation for being distracted during meetings. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall because I had learned something important. The best revenge is not hurting the person who hurt you. The best revenge is becoming so genuinely happy that their opinion becomes irrelevant. But I would be lying if I said I did not enjoy the symbolism of that billboard. Every morning, as Ethan walked to work, he was reminded of the woman he had underestimated. Every evening, as he left his office, he saw the proof of what happened when someone decided to stop playing small. The fashion industry is still obsessed with youth, but there are cracks in that foundation. More brands are recognizing that beauty does not have an expiration date, that women over 35 have purchasing power and brand loyalty that younger demographics lack. More importantly, women are refusing to disappear just because society expects them to. I am part of that revolution, but I am not leading it. I am simply one voice in a chorus of women who have decided to take up space, to refuse to apologize for their experience, to celebrate the beauty that comes with having lived long enough to know who they are. The modeling industry taught me that I was disposable, that my worth was tied to my youth, that my expiration date was approaching faster than I could run from it. But life taught me something different. That every ending is also a beginning, that every breakdown is an opportunity for a breakthrough, that every person who underestimates you is giving you the gift of low expectations to exceed. Today, I am preparing for my next campaign with Claret. This time, the concept is about legacy, about what we leave behind, about the impact we have on the world. The tagline is "She was here." And I cannot think of anything more beautiful than knowing that my presence in this world has mattered. I think about the 22-year-old girl who first stepped onto a runway in Paris, so hungry for validation, so desperate to be seen. I wish I could tell her that the approval she was seeking from others was always inside her, waiting to be discovered. I wish I could tell her that the industry would disappoint her, that love would betray her, that life would knock her down more times than she could count, but that each time she would get back up stronger than before. I wish I could tell her that at 36, she would finally understand that she was never too old for anything she truly wanted. She was just getting started. And to the woman reading this, the woman who has been told she is too old, too experienced, too much, they are wrong. You are not too old. You are not too anything. You are exactly who you are supposed to be, and the world needs what you have to offer. The billboard may have come down, but the woman in the image is still here, still rising, still proving that sometimes the best chapters of our lives are the ones we write after everyone else has counted us out. Remember, they said I was too old for a modeling comeback. They said I was washed up, forgotten, past my prime. They were wrong about everything except one thing. I did make a comeback. Just not the one they expected. I did not come back as the same person who had left. I came back as someone better, stronger, more sure of my worth. I came back as a woman who had learned that the only opinion that matters is the one you have of yourself. And that woman? She is just getting started. The best part about this story is that it is not over. Every day, I wake up knowing that I am writing the next chapter of a life that belongs entirely to me. Every day, I choose to show up as the woman I am becoming rather than the woman I used to be. Every day, I pass by that street where my billboard used to stand, and I smile, knowing that the woman in that image changed everything. Not just for me, but for every woman who saw her and remembered that she, too, was capable of taking up space. We are all capable of more than we know. We are all capable of comebacks that no one sees coming. We are all capable of becoming the women we were always meant to be. The only question is, what are you waiting for? If this story inspired you, please subscribe to our channel for more empowering stories of women who refuse to give up on themselves. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to join our community of women who are rewriting the rules and creating lives that belong entirely to them.